Hello and welcome to Cyclocosm.com's How the Race Was Won. Today's installment begins our coverage of the centenary edition of the Giro d'Italia. This year's race was opened, as in years prior, by a team time trial. The course was a relatively flat out and back along a barrier island in the Venetian lagoon. That's not to say it was boring, though. A few quick up and downs probably sent riders' stomachs lurching into their chests, and one section even featured two-way traffic, making for more than a few camera-friendly flybys. Much ink was spilled prior to this event by the always talkative Mark Cavendish. Seems he took offense that Team Garmin's Slipstream, winners of last year's team time trial, focused so much on that particular discipline. Weirdly, Lance Armstrong, who's notorious for his millimeter-level preparation, echoed the sentiment on Twitter. As anyone familiar with the Cat 4 start line knows, when riders begin making potential excuses for losing before the gun goes, they're coming ready to win. Cav's High Road team was the first out of the gate and rode well, despite having no splits to work against. High Road's Michael Berry commented afterwards that the squad rode with near-perfect rhythm, and coming across the line with 8 of its 9 initial riders, I see no reason to doubt it. The heralded Garmin Slipstream squad came through with a huge effort, but perhaps put a little too much into it. In contrast to High Road, they shelled 4 riders over the course of the race. The team never seemed like it needed to wait to finish with the mandatory 5, but spitting riders out like that might just indicate a little less teamwork and a little larger difference of talent within the squad. Garmin's second place may not have looked pretty, but behind them, some squads looked downright ragged. Barlow World split itself in half coming into the line, though Robbie Hunter later had an excuse for that. Still, due to the short and flat parkour, no team managed to put itself totally out of contention. Fuji Servetto, the last place squad, was a mere minute 37 back. Perhaps the most significant GC implications of the stage came as Astana, the last team to start, crossed the line. They were led by Lance Armstrong in full Lance face. His team finished in third, 13 seconds down, but you can't watch that grimace and tell me Armstrong's just doing this race for the Italian scenery. So stage 2, a flattish, shortish coastal jaunt to Trieste that was as obviously a sprinter stage as any in the Giro's 100-year history, began with Cavendish in pink. Local squad ISD got their sponsorship dollars worth out of Leonardo Scarzelli, and the High Road-led peloton was content to let him ride. Other than a brief bit of action for a few sprint points, taken by Tyler Farrar ahead of Cavendish, the day's stage would be settled over 3 laps of a twisting, narrow finishing circuit in Trieste. Scarzelli was reeled in halfway through the first lap as Thomas Vogler leapt away from the field for a few mountain points that turned out not to be there. Through the circuits, Garmin's Slipstream took over the pacemaking, and oddly even marked a few attacks, like David Garcia's mountain jersey-winning move at 15k to go. When the disconcerting group of Philippe Gilbert, Enrico Gasparotto, and Pippo Pozzato went clear at 7k to go, it was Garmin that mobilized to bring them back. But all that effort comes at a cost, and by the time Fabian Cancellara's attack was gobbled up at a k&a-half to go, Garmin's sprinter Farrar was left all alone. He had Cav's wheel just before the final K, but Alessandro Patacchi got inside him on the last corner, and by 500 meters, Farrar had been bumped practically out of the top 10. At 250 meters to go, Patacchi jumped off Cav's wheel and went around him to the left, instantly gapping Katusha's Ben Swift and coming next to Cavendish right as his lead-up man slowed up. Cav couldn't fully accelerate until Patacchi was past him, and by that point, it was all but a lost cause. Farrar did well to battle back into 5th despite facing the wind for his entire sprint, but in the end no one came close as Patacchi had time to make a brief glance over his shoulder before crossing the line. Cavendish, back in 2nd, would have to settle for another day in pink. Barlow World's Robert Hunter did not figure in the final dash to the line, but once again, he was ready with an excuse. I'm Cosmo Catalano, and that's how the race was won.